Hello, welcome back to Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm James Pendleton, and today I'm joined by Terry and Paul McAllister and Owen Parks, and we're here to react to Frank Lampard's sacking. It has been a bizarre day. We're recording this on the Monday that happened. The club have waited hours to announce it. It was basically confirmed yesterday. It's just been a bizarre day. Terry, I'll come to you first. How do you sum up what is just a day which is becoming all too common for it to be being an Everton fan at the minute?
Yeah, the circus continues. Let's have it right straight off the bat. Lampard should have went ages ago. He's not a good manager. I don't understand how anybody ever looked at him and thought he'd be a long-term Everton manager. It just didn't seem like a good fit to begin with for me. It was like, London and Chelsea's Frank Lampard will come to the Northwest and he'll be a long-term Everton manager and turn things around where other managers with more experience haven't been able to without the money that the other managers have had. I never saw it working, and I never did. And that was before he had a 12-month stint where he had relegation form throughout that entire time. And yeah, a reactionary bad manager who's been relieved finally. And the only thing you can say about it is that it wasn't, that won't solve the problem. It will solve a problem. A better manager will make a much more of a fist of things with this squad and what have you. But God Almighty, everything that's gone around it, the manager, like, replacement manager names that have been thrown about, where it's just a scattergun approach yet again. Mashiri's pushing for some names where that other people are pushing for others, and they've relieved Lampard of his duties when they haven't got a clear idea of the next manager in mind. Like, this club is dying to be relegated. It's just been going downhill for years, and it's now starting to pick up so much momentum and accelerate towards that cliff edge. It's ridiculous. It's like, I'm not saying they should have held off on sacking Lampard. They should have done it, well, for my money, in the 6-week World Cup break, not because of the Bournemouth games, like, because people all say should have went after Bournemouth, yeah, but not because of those Bournemouth games, because of the form that went before that on the whole sample size of what he'd been here, not just on a couple of games. A proper football club would have looked at the trend then and gone, this isn't good enough. He's not getting the most out of these players. He's not a good manager. We'll use this break. We'll bring in someone else, and we've got this person in mind. We don't do any of that. We're basically now scratching around in a 2-week window to find a manager. And we'll come on to, like, the replacement names, but it's just the culture is rotten in the club. The club is decaying, and Lampard going is a good thing, but there's so much more that needs to, like, you haven't cut all the rot away, because it goes higher up than him. But there is no circumstance where he should have or could have been kept on, because, like him or not, articulate or not, he gets the fans, blah, 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 blah. This is one of the worst performing managers in Everton's history. So I don't understand these people who are all thanking him for doing the absolute bare minimum while he was here. Not for me, thanks. It's just a sign of how far our standards have fallen, frankly, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to be fair, I think us four are probably on, if not the same page, a very similar one. Obviously, you touched on it there, Terry. He felt he should have gone in the World Cup break at the very earliest. I think if that had happened, I think there would have been some people who would have thought it was a bit harsh. I wouldn't have been one of them, but I would love us to move a manager on who's underperforming and other people to think it's harsh. I wish we would do it for once, because we always go the other way and wait too long. Owen, when do you think he probably should have been relieved, and what do you think about the fact that he's now finally gone?
He should have been relieved years ago, literally. I know he's only been there a year, but for me, if I had been like, first thing, right, I feel really sorry for him today, because no one should have to have lingered on all weekend like this. So whether they get, I know that he's on a lot of money and he'll be well paid, but there's professional respect, and I think Everton have, like they did with Marco Silva, like the way they sort of like um brief the newspapers months before they sacked Sam Allardyce. They did the same then. It's just not very nice how they treat people. But I just, that being said, he did give everything, and it is the bare minimum. But so on that respect, you would like it to be like upright and make the decision and stick by it and get it out there to him and don't do it over the phone. I think that's the way they've handled it is just ridiculous today. But if we're being honest, I would, if we're being like realistic this season, probably when would I have sacked them? Probably Bournemouth. But if we're being honest, I know we stayed up, but I would have liked them after Burnley beat us last year because they were like on their knees and still beat us. So yeah, I know he turned it around when he just gave up on a style and just went 5-4-1 and held in. But really, that was enough. He'd been there months and won about 2 games in 4 months. So if any like functioning football club would have gone, well, we've made a mistake here and done it a long time ago. He's nowhere near good enough to be Everton manager. Never has, and he'd be a brilliant pundit. I'm sure if he's on M&F with Carragher and Neville, he'd be like top view, and we'd all be listening to see what they've got to say because they've got a bit of rapport with the viewers. But he isn't a manager like Neville wasn't, and if Carragher did it, you'd get the same. They're not good enough. But today it's been like crazy. It's really done my head in all day. As Terry would be able to attest, we've been like tearing each other's hair out all day, because of how crazy it's been. But I'm for one glad it's over. I'm like Terry. I never ever saw this as a good appointment. When people were spraying Lampard's name on the side of Goodison, I was losing my mind because I wondered what kind of alternative universe I'd stepped into where he could do a job. As it goes, he's kept us up, and even though I feel like in a way on the pitch he put us in the bottom 3, he did take us back out of it. So in the end, it doesn't matter. But that, along with this season, he's been exactly what I thought he would be, and that's rubbish. As what comes next, we'll talk about that, I think, on a different video. But it's like it's quite kind of scary, but it's scary in the way that this football club always seems to go from bad to worse. So who knows? But it is just shattering supporting Everton, and this sort of like Frank Lampard era has not surprised me whatsoever, and I'm still knackered, just like having gone through it all. It's been woeful that I've called it on here from the first minute, but yeah, I've still got no optimism. What comes next, because purely it can just be sort of like highlighting the way they've treated them the past few weeks and how they've treated other managers. They've got no kind of conscience, and they're so detached from reality. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the same page, I think we all agree that the way they've handled it today, yesterday, over the coming, or the previous week, should I say, has been really poor. What I wanted to touch on, Paul, with you is, why do you think this manager has had the fans sort of subscribe to this view that, they want to give not just some fans, but the board as well seem to want to give this manager time. They wanted to give him every single chance, and obviously now he's gone. He's getting a lot of flowers for not doing a great deal. I don't want to take away from some good work that happened last season, but as the other 2 lads have said, it has been the bare minimum. Really, why do you think there's been this sort of poignancy about this particular sacking, forgetting the fact that on this particular day he's not been treated very nicely?
Why did the club want to give him the benefits of the doubt, and why did the supporters want him to do so well? It's two different questions. The board wants them to do well because they're incredibly incompetent, and if he hadn't worked out, then it just makes them look even worse than they already looked. It's another manager they've hired and had to fire. What's the old Brian Clough quote? If a chairman hires a manager and then sacks that manager, that chairman should sack himself, or something. It was something similar to that. Yeah. The board wanted to keep him in because they had no plan. They had no alternative to sort of dust off and pull out if it didn't work out under him. Because it's not just, this is not the first time we've sacked a manager with no one, waiting in the wings, ready to swoop in and take the job straight away. We had, even going back to when David Moyes announced he was leaving for Man United, when he announced that he wasn't going to sign a new deal, because he was coming to the end of his new deal, United didn't pay any compensation for him. He told Bill Kenwright down in his office in London that he was not going to be staying at Everton, and Bill Kenwright was completely dumbfounded, caught with his pants down. He was on Sky Sports News, nearly crying. From what I remember, as a chairman, the idea should have entered his head that I've got a manager with 2 or 3 months left on his contract and he's not signing a new one. What does that tell me about what his future plans are? Then after that, they sacked Martinez, and it took a few weeks to replace Martinez. I remember there was rumours of Unai Emery, who was coming off another Europa League win with Sevilla. There was Koeman got mentioned, and he was the one we ultimately did go to. There was talk of Alan Stubbs, because he was on a bit of a high doing well in Scotland with Hibernian. Do you remember it though? Yeah, he was genuinely interviewed. Phil Neville apparently got interviewed as well. So there was no plan.
Sure, we know the right people.
Yeah, so when David Moyes left, there was no plan. When Martinez left, there was no plan. We kicked around for a few weeks before we made up our mind on who we wanted. Then when we sacked Koeman, we had no plan at all. There was rumours of Allardyce, and then we weren't going to give it to Allardyce, and we let Unsworth have it for a month, and he was terrible. And then eventually we went back to Allardyce, cap in hand. Then we got rid of Allardyce, and we brought in Marco Silva, who we basically told him to get himself sacked from Watford so he wouldn't have to pay any compensation for him. And
even that one, it seemed like it was pretty quick. But they were in an hour in between him and Fonseca for weeks.
Yeah, there was that as well. And even after Marco Silva went and they got Ancelotti fell in their lap. Ancelotti, when we sacked Marco Silva, Ancelotti wasn't available. He was at Napoli. And we
were going to give it to David Moyes.
They were going to give it to David Moyes, and then the fan base was in uproar, and they sort of lost the bottle at the last minute. And then, luckily for them, Ancelotti had his fallout with the Napoli chairman and suddenly became available. And we managed to get him on the phone and convince him to come and take the payday. But there was no plan to sack Marco Silva and go get Ancelotti. They fell over him. And when Ancelotti decided he was going to get up and go back to Real Madrid, there was no plan then. So I can't remember. I don't think Everton in their history have ever sacked a manager with a specific idea in place of who they're going to replace him with and what day this manager's coming in to start.
Probably David Moyes, because he came in the same day, didn't he?
No, I don't think so. He sacked Walter Smith, and then we were interviewing. I've heard Kenwright nauseatingly tell the story loads of times about how he met David Unsworth at his house, David Moyes at his house, because he watched them for Preston, and he wasn't really too sure, and David Moyes blew me away and told me how he was the man for Everton, and I suddenly decided I didn't want to interview any more people. I knew I had my man. So no, he didn't sack Walter Smith, knowing full well he was going to go get David Moyes. You can go back down all the list, all the managers we've fired. It's been weeks, if not over a month before we've got the new guy in place, because there's never been a plan. But I just want to touch back on what we've mentioned about how despicable this board's acted in terms of lack of professionalism and lack of just common decency. Whether you like Frank or don't as a manager and you think he was rubbish and he should have got the bullet ages ago, there's a way you treat people, as far as I'm concerned. And for this board, people there, Kenwright, Denise Barrett-Baxendale, Graham Sharp, all these other people who have been at the club for years, who fall over themselves to tell the media and tell the supporters about how we're a family and we do things right at Everton and we look after each other. It's all crap. It's all nonsense. They're all two-faced and they're all liars. Because if they really believed in all this stuff they talk about, they don't treat Marco Silva the way they treated him. They don't treat Allardyce the way they treated him, whether you like Allardyce or don't. You don't treat Benitez the way you did, whether you like Benitez or don't, because he was left hanging high and dry as well for a couple of weeks before he got sacked. No one came up and backed him other than Mashiri.
What else you've got to remember as well with these managers, sorry, 1 minute, is that they're left hanging for weeks. And who the people who in the media who have to front her up and answer the questions? It's these managers who are going to be sacked in a week. So they've got to take all the flack, all the questions about things out of their control, and within days they're not going to be there. That to me is just ultimate deflection from the people who we know what they're like, and it's just totally despicable. I've probably been Frank Lampard's #1 critic or everything, but I wouldn't have put him through what he's been put through these past few weeks, because it is.
And it's not like it's the only time it's happened. The exact same happened to Marco Silva. He was told to come in for training. Farhad Moshiri was getting on the train up from London all day, and Marco Silva was basically told to go out into the field, the pitches on the training grounds, and basically just go and walk around and keep himself busy for a few hours while the board had a meeting at Finch Farm to decide whether or not to sack him. And as you said, Allardyce had to basically listen to rumours from the journalists and in the influential people locally, like the people in the media saying, knowing full well that he was going at the end of the season. He said it himself, I knew I was going to get sacked months before the end of the season came. Benitez, I'll touch on it again, there was whispers around the place that he was going weeks before he did. It actually was a shock that it took so long. So I just want to go back to hammering this board. I think the way they treat people, they're not only incompetent and awful and absolutely dismal when it comes to their record of making big decisions, but just the way they treat people is despicable. I pictured them all day today running around to the Benny Hill music. Honestly, like Frank Lampard got a phone call yesterday by the sounds of it telling him he was finished, and all the newspapers and all the national journalists who write for BBC or Sky or the like of that, they've been running stories all day since last night, even some of them saying that he's gone. Basically, the Everton job is vacant and they're going to be interviewing people. And even the players didn't find out until they heard it on the radio. So I just think all this, we're a family where we treat people right, our heart's in the right place, we look after each other. I think it's all phony rubbish. I think that horrible people, genuinely, the likes of Ken Knight and Denise Barrett-Baxendale, because only horrible people treat managers, employees the way they do.
Just on the way they treat them. Do you remember towards the latter days of Allardyce when he sent round that fan survey? What do you think of the manager?
Yeah, I forgot about that as well.
I'll give myself all an 11.
That's not even just sort of. That's just not idiocy. Like, they're just stupid and don't realise they can't read the room. I think they're just genuinely snide, a lot of them, and they don't care, and they're willing to do anything to deflect criticism on themselves. We've just heard Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football at the time of this recording saying, when he criticised the Everton board a few months ago on Sky, saying that we were one of the worst run clubs in the country, he had people from Everton on the phone to him immediately, basically saying, what are you slagging us off in public for? Well, that's my job. My job is to give my opinion. You can disagree with his opinion if you want to, but the fact that they're going out the way to basically get in touch with him to say, how dare you say this about us? It just shows how thin-skinned and how paranoid and how desperate they are to avoid any sort of criticism and get held to account for their own mistakes. I just really don't like them as people. If I came across with them, I don't even think I'd want to shout at them in person. Personally, as an Everton fan, I wouldn't lose my rag. I think I'd walk out the room because I don't want to be anywhere near these people.
The top and bottom of it is this regime, which includes the owner, but it goes much further back than when he came in with this fucking chairman, has overseen Everton transitioning from one of the biggest, most storied clubs in English football to being a small club. We are a small club now, and everything we do, our behaviour, our conduct, the way we recruit, the way we hire and fire, we're a small club because every single regular briefed journalist has known all day that Frank Lampard's going to be sacked. And it got to Monday Night Football, and then Dave Jones had to tell Neville and Carragher that Everton hadn't confirmed it yet, and they were talking about his sacking on the show on live Sky, and they hadn't actually confirmed it yet. The whole world knew, but we hadn't put a statement out, and I can't remember which one said that's the sign of an unorganised football club. This is the thing. This is the thing you've got to remember about the Everton regime and the people who do things at the club. This is not them acting shit on purpose. This is the best they can do. This is their best effort, and it's this bad. They can't do anything. They can't communicate with fans. When they try and communicate with fans, they do stupid daft shit like, the stunty pulls on with the headlock gate and all that.
That feels about a month ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah. They got cameras put in their faces after the West Ham game, and you saw the two worst traits of the two main men at the club. You get Farhad Moshiri, the 94% owner on paper, saying it's not his decision who to sack Frank Lampard. Now, a lot of what Moshiri says, I often think is misconstrued because of the way he words things. He's not very good at articulating himself. But it's like, shouldn't he learn to stop speaking then if he keeps getting himself in shit? I think what he meant by that is, it is not my decision to currently sack Frank Lampard, or whatever he meant by it. It's like, yeah, but you make, every single time you speak, you portray it as what, you let the world know that you're out of your depth. And then you get the other idiot who I can't stand, who's pretending he's trying to get in his car as he's being spoken to, Bill Kenwright, but then not actually getting in it. Just trying to, given the, this career actor who's pretending he's trying to get away from the awkward question, but stopping and gaining into the camera. Never met a camera he doesn't like, going, things have got to be better, haven't they? It's like, fuck off, Bill. You're absolute embarrassing idiot.
Won't get off the stage. Club, won't leave the stage.
This club will never, ever, ever get any better. It will only get worse while that man's still got his paws all over it. And he's not the only problem, but he's the root problem. Farhad Moshiri's a massive issue, but who brought him to Everton? The only billionaire in the Wales who would have kept the old regime at Everton. He walked right in the doors of Everton Football Club thanks to Bill Kenwright. And his other pet on the board, Graham Sharp, saying it's gone too far now, the protest. What, the sit-in protest where they didn't... Sharp...
Bootlicker in chief. I don't care what he achieved as a player. That man is a bootlicker. I've got no respect for him at all.
Graham Sharp... and his minister for propaganda, David Prentice, Barrett Baxendale, head of the SS, whatever. Like, just absolute regime of no marks who have taken Everton Football Club from being one of the biggest in the country to being basically smaller than Brighton and Brentford as things stand. And because a banter club, a meme, who were just there and will
like Bible fodder,
they'll go out they'll go out the Premier League probably, unless we pull a Hail Mary, and we'll be forgotten about and we won't be back for a long time, if ever. And it'll be the legacy that Bill Kenwright deserves, because that is the regime he's overseen. Paul and I went to a tour of Goodison Park on Sunday. It was a Christmas present. We didn't plan to do it after the West Ham defeat, but
I was going to say, I don't know if we're going through your mind doing that.
I've got one as well. I've not used it yet.
But it was... I know it's
tragicomic is the word,
I know it's a stadium tour and it's meant to be a fluffy day and a lot of it's for kids and stuff like that. It is the changing rooms, but some of the shite you saw just spoke to the culture at the club. You walk in the front door and they've got 3 trophies in a cabinet as you walk in. Not any of our league titles or the Cup Winners' Cup or 5 FA Cups. No, we've got the Brotherhood Cup with Everton Chile. We've got the Florida Cup. The Florida Cup that Benitez won, and some stupid trophy from that we won with the under-23s with Unsworth. They're the 3 trophies as players. Opposition
got from Owen bargains or something.
That's a B&M trophies as we walk into the club. Like, you'd think we hadn't won anything. We put them at the front door, not league titles or anything like that. And then you go on to other stuff and everything just speaks to, we've got no proper culture at the club, because the man who sets the culture is a dinosaur and should have been moved on years ago. Everything about the club is just relics from previous managers that they haven't got rid of. There's changing room showers in the home dressing room has got a decal on the wall that Roberto Martinez put in. The tunnel is decals of like former Everton players that Frank Lampard put in. There's a wall of team photos, the way they take one every year of the team. That stopped in 2015 because Ronald Koeman didn't believe in them, and then they didn't pick it up afterwards when he's been gone years. It's just a graveyard just of old bones of previous managers, because there's no culture that the managers come into and have to abide by and a standard to set. They just get brought in and go, right, well, we had David Moyes for a decade and he just ran everything, so therefore you just run everything, and then that's how the club's just operated. And the club is genuinely decaying under this regime. And if we go down, I will be as mortified as every Evertonian. But that one grain of sand of positivity I will take out of it is that Bill Kenwright will lose sleep at night, because his legacy, the one that he's thought he's going to have and crafted with his bullshit media mates, for years will have gone up in flames, and he will be remembered as the man who saw Everton, this giant, this pillar of English football, drop out of the top flight for the first time in 1,000 years. It's the club is a joke, and this is just the latest chapter in an absolute black comedy that is this football club. That we've sacked another manager who shouldn't have been appointed. We only appointed him because the pickings were that slim, because we'd let ourselves get in such a poor position, and now we've not even got anyone lined up, and there's a perfect person lined up, but he's not being considered. And we'll come on to the managers in a minute, I'm sure. The options. I'll stop there.
The literal alternative to Lampard was a fellow who was begging for the job on Sky Sports News. Die as far as Mashiri's legacy and Bill Kenwright's, and I think we should move on now and talk about the next guy.
And that fella who obviously did go on Sky Sports, Vito Pereira, was obviously mentioned 10 years ago when David Moyes left, which just kind of sums it all up.
Yeah,
so,
if we're going to go lad Bible banter, then just appoint it to him, give it to him, and just complete it. That'll be the season finale. Yeah.
That would be some roundabout. But anyway, we'll end it there on the reaction to Frank Lampard. We're now going to discuss who could replace him. So make sure you check that out on another video. But thank you all very much for watching. And please make sure you like, subscribe, and check out our socials in the description. Thank you all very much.